Hello and welcome to Sport Tonight. I'm Cecilia Omogbe. On the show today, of course, we'll be talking about the FIFA World Cup. That will get our attention tonight. But then there's also the National Sport Festival currently going on in Asaba Delta State. Well, Team Delta, of course, are the one making waves right now. We'll focus on taekwondo today, and also we'll talk about shooting, and we'll touch down on weightlifting and some of the issues that are currently going on at the National Sport Festival. And of course, the FIFA World Cup. Well, what? Georgia de Arrascaeta actually had 2 goals, but then he labored in vain. I mean, that's a prayer for everyone. They shouldn't labor in vain. The 2 goals he scored were nullified because South Korea surprisingly beat Portugal by 2-1. So because of that, South Korea went into the round of 16. Uruguay going home. Same with Black Stars of Ghana. Ghana needed to beat Uruguay to be able to qualify, but they just couldn't do that. So Ghana out, Tunisia out. Cameroon currently in action against Brazil is still goalless at the end of first half. But then we have 2 African countries already in the round of 16, Morocco and, of course, Senegal. Senegal will be in action against England on Sunday. There's so much to talk about tonight, especially concerning the FIFA World Cup. Austin will be joining me much later from London. Of course, Noel Adams will be joining us from Qatar. He's right there in Doha, where Ghana lost to Portugal. I don't know how the Ghanaians are actually feeling right now. But before we get into that, quickly, we'll touch down on the National Sport Festival, starting with what happened today, taekwondo, where there is a medalist, Elizabeth Esuko. Josephine Esuko happens to be the one who was able to get a medal right there at the National Sports Festival. There's also shooting, where those athletes are really happy because most athletes usually wait for a long time to have competitions, and when National Sports Festival comes, usually the cash cow, you would say, of most athletes, because governors wants to reward these athletes with millions of naira, especially with December actually coming up. So let's take a listen. If we have it, okay. While we wait for that, of course, Scrabble also gets our attention at the National Sports Festival, because Scrabble is also another big sport that is making waves at that event. All right. Of course, while we're waiting for Austin, there's a guest in the studio already. He will be talking about the FIFA World Cup, and then when we have the National Sports Festival, we will go back to that. Ikena Chikwendi will be joining me to talk about the FIFA World Cup. Of course, Noel Adams much later will join us. Ikena, how are you doing? Hope you're enjoying the World Cup.
Well, I am, but it's been a Black Friday because the Black Stars lost today. So it was for the first time, Africa could have had 3 teams in the second round of the World Cup, but unfortunately it didn't happen. They lost the most vital game. They should have won. Probably they had revenge all over their eyes. They couldn't see further than that. So, it actually pained me that our neighbors lost to Uruguay, so they are out. We only have 2 teams in the round of 16. So it's also a good outing for African teams so far. Probably with what is happening in the first half, just like you said, Cameroon who knows, might just sneak into the round of 16. Okay,
let's see if that miracle can happen. Now let's just quickly take a look at what happened in Group AH earlier today, where the Black Stars of Ghana lost to Uruguay. Yes, he mentioned that they had revenge right there in their hearts, but then the Ghanaians were not playing like the team that have the heart, because Uruguay dominance was so clear and so glaring. And after conceding those 2 goals, they just couldn't live up to expectation. Uruguay needed to score another goal, especially after South Korea, where we're already 2-1 up against Portugal. If they had scored just one, then the labor of Arrascaeta wouldn't have been in vain. By the end of the day, he labored just for nothing, and Uruguay, they are out. Let's just get confirmation of the result from the FIFA World Cup, where you have Ghana and, of course, Portugal. That game 2-0 in favor of Uruguay, and of course South Korea and Portugal 2-1 in favor of, well, of course, South Korea, and that's why South Korea are there. I believe the player who scored that goal would definitely be a hero right now, Hee-chan.
Yeah, just like the guy that scored in their win over Italy in 2002. He's already a hero. He took off his shirt, he was all over the place, but they had their hearts in their mouths because their game ended before the Ghana game ended, so they had to wait for another 6 minutes before this thing. But one thing I want to put out is I think as African teams, we can learn from this, because what I found out is that it's like every other team go in with a purpose. And when they go in, they achieve that purpose. And if something happens on the way, they still go back to see whether they can get it. What I'm saying is because of what Uruguay did. They had 2 goals. They were comfortable. Immediately they found out that South Korea were already
They were not looking for that goal.
You could see that they had a game plan towards that. So unfortunately for them, it didn't happen. Though some Ghanaians are happy that Luis Suarez is going home, he's also going home like they did those days. But I think it's a bad outing for them. I think we can learn from this. Probably, since because African teams actually put up a good show in this tournament, probably the next one will be better than this.
Yeah, I can't wait to actually talk to Noor Adams. He will be joining us much later on the program. How the Ghanaians are feeling. They have it right there. They needed a win, but then that just didn't happen. Senegal, of course, remember how they needed a win and they had to go ahead and they got the goals they needed, and then they were into the round of 16. But the Ghanaians couldn't do that. Austin, of course, is ready to join us from London. So, Austin, how you doing? The Black Stars are out.
What a greetings to you, Cecilia, and of course, Ikenna. I think Ikenna gave it a good description. There's Black Friday for the Ghanaian team. And ironically, Ghana doesn't even know that most Nigerians were rooting for them. You know, yes, they stopped Nigeria from qualifying, but with the momentum that we saw African teams building in Qatar, we had no choice than to start rooting for them, you know. But I thought Ghana, they were their own undoing again today, because they didn't approach that game with the mindset that they needed to just go out and win. And gracious goodness, when Andrea, you missed that penalty, as vital as it is, I just knew it was going to be so tough for the Black Stars of Ghana. I really wanted them to get into the round of 16. That have done so much good for Africa after Senegal and Morocco qualified. Now, Cameroon, they are fighting, they are pushing to see if they can get the win against Brazil, but I know it's going to be very, very difficult. So, Ghana, whether or not we agree, that's why a lot of people are not happy with the state of football in Nigeria, because Ghana had no right to stop Nigeria from qualifying for the World Cup. Our biggest problem was administration and management, and we took our eyes off the ball, and a team that couldn't beat Comoros at the AFCON in Cameroon had to beat Nigeria to the World Cup ticket in Qatar. So Ghana, they need to go back now. Coach Ado, don't forget, is a temporary coach. They brought him to try to, stabilize things. He has his job right there in Germany, and probably is going to get back to it. Some of the guys that we saw today will be out of football, and won't be at the next World Cup for Ghana. But they can pick up some few things, out of the World Cup. Mohamed Kudus is a good revelation for them. Goalkeeper Atizigi is a fantastic prospect also. Salisu isn't so bad. I think Barbara Man didn't come into the game today, and that really cost Ghana. But what really finished their hopes today was the mentality. They didn't get in there to say, look, we're not looking at anything. We just need to beat Uruguay, and whatever happens in the other matches happen. But they didn't do that, so they'll be going back to Accra. Of course, they will be going back to Accra. And of course, the standout person for me in that particular game happens to be the goalkeeper. Meaning, if he hasn't, if he wasn't top notch, if he wasn't at his best, I believe they would have considered more goals, and maybe Uruguay would have been into it. But Uruguay being out, what does he portray for the likes of Luis Suarez, Edinson Cavani? More like this is it for them. Yeah, I think it's the end of an era for they too are the golden generation, because they didn't win the Copa America. That's it. So Suarez, and they are the last of there are 3 of them: Suarez, Godin, and Edinson Cavani. Yeah. So they are the last of those the dying generation. So they'll be out. They were there in 2012. Imagine this at 2010 in South Africa. Cavani on his own is struggling with injuries. He hasn't played for a couple of months before coming to the World Cup. Suarez is 35. He doesn't even have a club. He just ended his career with Nacional in Uruguay. So Godin is in Brazil. I think they are done. So so they start building again. But one thing I like about Uruguay, they are a nation of 3 million people, but they keep punching above their weight. That's admirable. That's fantastic. That's for them. Yeah.
All right. I mean, Austin, when I saw Luis Suarez actually crying, I mean, he understands when he was substituted. Like, they checked their phones and discovered that South Korea had already scored. And, of course, they were losing it. They started going for that goal. Now, the time they relaxed, if at the first half they had scored 3 goals, I mean, they wouldn't have had that frantic time they had at the 8 minutes added time, because you could see players were no longer composed. I mean, that tendency to want to score, the anxiety, they were nervous. At the end of the day, they couldn't put themselves together to just get that goal they so much desire to get to go into the round of 16.
I don't think so, Cecilia. I think the Uruguayan team should be proud of themselves. They gave it the sort of approach that they needed to give it, you know, right after Ghana missed that penalty. They knew that, hey, this is serious business. So they jumped into it, got their lead, and then sustained the momentum. Don't forget, South Korea didn't score up until, I think, the 85th minute. And at that time, Ghana was mounting pressure now on Uruguay. So the Uruguay needed to be very, very careful that they don't concede, because if Ghana had scored a goal, let's say in the 80th minute, the pressure would be too much, you know, on Uruguay. So they were being careful, trying to see if they can catch Ghana on the counter and then score an extra goal. But at 2-0, they were so comfortable because they were monitoring what was happening between South Korea and Portugal. And gracious goodness, this World Cup has been such an upsetting one, because you wouldn't expect South Korea, with the way they played, to go on to beat Portugal. Same thing when we were analyzing the show last night. It looked like Costa Rica was going to beat Germany, and from nowhere, the Germans turned it around and went on to win. Now, let's come back to what's happening today. At the stadium 974, it's Switzerland 3, Serbia 2. We already have 5 goals in that match. At the Lusail Stadium, it's still Brazil 0, Cameroon 0. Vincent Abubakar came so close to giving the indomitable Lions of Cameroon a goal, but his effort was just a bit wide. So Cameroon must do everything to win this one tonight. Is it going to happen? Very tough.
It's going to be tough because Switzerland is scoring. I mean, they're having fun, you know, getting all the goals into the net. So obviously, it's going to be difficult for Cameroon to be able to beat Brazil. The Brazilians, yes, maybe they want to have a 100% record. If you check so far, no team has been able to do that. I think the only one standing now to see if they can have that 100% record. I mean, tonight, obviously, they would want to have that 100% record going to the round of 16.
Yeah, because going into a tournament, when the coach makes his lineup the first game, he's also looking at his bench.
Yes.
So those third games are where those from the bench can actually stake a claim to the certain shirt, maybe in the next game or the quarterfinal. So they wouldn't want to lose. Just like what happened in some of the teams. Some people that lost in this last round of matches might not get a certain bet going into the round of 16. So you also have to prove yourself that you're a good member of the squad, that you have to play well. So you shouldn't be the day you have your game that is the day you're going to drop the ball. So I think Brazil might not, they won't lose the game. They might not lose this game. They will want to win it and get that 9 points, being the first team to get the 9 points. At least it's a morale booster, it's a confidence booster.
Against the round of 16.
Yeah.
Let's see if that's going to happen. Austin, let's quickly touch down on what happened between South Korea and Portugal. Now, yesterday, we talked about the fact that you just mentioned, I mean, what happened to Costa Rica and Germany. Of course, Germany won 4-2. A little too late, they still went out because what happened? Japan beat Spain. Somehow, I don't think there's a conspiracy, because if you look at the teams that have gone out, South Korea today, it was a shocker for everyone. No one expected them to win their game. But of course, they did against Portugal. And just yesterday, of course, no one expected Japan to beat Spain. They did. So Germany went out simply because of what Japanese did. And today, South Korea, Uruguay are out simply because of the Korean team, what they did. Now, Asian countries, European countries, now you have, I mean, former champions, Germany, and of course, Uruguay, they are out of the FIFA World Cup. Something seems to be going on.
Cecilia, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy. It's just that some of these other guys, they're saying enough is enough for some of the European superpowers, you know. And if you take a look at it, it's the football. Remember, I said it, that this is going to be an unusual World Cup. And we're seeing it. It's a very unusual World Cup, you know. VAR turning eyes away from things that we think VAR on a good day would have made a decision, and then play countries that you don't expect to create an upset, going on to create upsets. Now, if you take a look at Group E, Group G, Group H, even to an extent, Group D, we needed to wait till the final group game to know who is going to go through. That's how unusual it is at this World Cup. So, Cecilia, I don't see any conspiracy. I think the Asian team, they've just said to themselves that what's out of being, Minos, these guys shouldn't just underrate us, and for a team like Australia to get to the round of 16, they'll be saying to themselves, if Saudi Arabia can beat Argentina, if Japan can beat Germany, why can't Australia, do the unthinkable and advance, at the competition? Those sort of analysis, can motivate you to do something different. And that's what we've seen. Yesterday, for instance, if the Germans are just taking it off their mind that, look, Japan beat us, there's no way Japan will now go to Spain without extra motivation. If they had that at the back of their mind, from the start of the game against Costa Rica, they probably would have scored 3 goals. Now, see what did it for Spain. A good start. They thrashed Costa Rica 7-0 in their first game. Now, imagine if they didn't win by that sort of margin. They would have been on their way back to Madrid. So that's what it is at this World Cup. I don't see no conspiracy. Nobody's respecting anybody these days. The more you look,
and the less you see. That's what it's looking like. All right, if we have it, we need to take confirmation of what the Group H table looked like, just for us to see how it all ended, because Portugal didn't get that 100% record that they wanted. They had a 6 points at the end of the day after winning 2 games. And, of course, South Korea, 4 points. Uruguay also on 4 points. Uruguay needed an extra goal to be able to go to the round of 16, on goal difference, but they couldn't get that. Ended with 4 points. Ghana, of course, they won only 1 game against South Korea, and that's why they are going. Uruguay, Ghana out of the group, and the weight stands 6-4-4-3. That's how Group H ended. Quickly, Austin mentioned, if we have confirmation of the results currently going live, Cameroon still goalless, and of course the game between Serbia and Switzerland, Switzerland 3, Serbia 2. That's what is on right now. Okay, now let's talk about the games for tomorrow, starting with this is the real deal, right? I mean, this is the round of 16. This is where everyone has been waiting for, Netherlands and USA. Now, you look at the Dutch, I mean, yes, they haven't been convincing so far when the World Cup started, but this Netherlands team, they have something going for them, which is grit.
They have nothing going for them.
They have nothing. Okay, so why?
I said this 2 weeks ago. I told Austin on this set that I don't. This Dutch team, this particular Dutch team, there's something special about them, and it's very. You can see the way they are playing. The only thing I'm worried about is the US. If they just have a strike, that's the only thing missing in their team. They don't have that point man. They don't have that finisher in their team. But the way US are. They are the only team I've been impressed with in this tournament so far.
The Americans?
Yes.
Why do you say that? Because of their game against England?
No, not even their game against England. The way they play, the way they dominate games, they don't just give you the ball. They're 3 midfielders. That's Musa, Adams, and McKennie, the Juventus guy. The way they command that midfield, and also their fullbacks, the way they move. The Americans, they control the games. They set the tone. The way they dominated England didn't believe what hit them. So that game could have gone on for 2 days. England would have scored. So meeting Netherlands, I think to me is a very comfortable game for them.
Yeah.
But the only problem they have is they don't just have that finisher up front.
Up front.
If Christian Pulisic is fit, if he plays, then there will be a problem in that Netherlands back.
Okay, Louis van Gaal actually said that they are facing a very, very strong opponent. Now, when you hear a coach talking like that, they're facing a very strong opponent. And Austin, if you remember what happened in 2014, where they had to go out in the semi-finals after missing 2 penalties, and they said they've been practicing penalties. Well, we need to go on the break, but we'll come back. We'll talk more about the Orange team. All right, yes, we're talking about the Orange team, the Netherlands, the Dutch. Louis van Gaal, of course, is the coach. He says they've been practicing penalty because of what happened in 2014, where they had to go out when they were up against Argentina in the semi-final because they missed out on 2 penalties. But they will be facing USA, who haven't been to the quarterfinals since 2008. That's a long time ago. And of course, they would be facing up against a team who obviously want to right the wrong of the years. Yes, they've been a team that usually going into the World Cup, they tag them as favorite, but they've never won the FIFA World Cup. Austin, what are their chances against the US? I mean, Tyler Adams have been saying that, yes, they've gone and give it all, their all, everything, throw everything at the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's all they can do, and I totally agree with some of the analysis Ikenna made about the United States team. I think they're a team that is beginning to, gather some confidence match after match. They're a team that is very compact in the middle. They don't respect opponents. That can work for them. But this is the United States of America. When you expect them to now come out and do what they need to do, they just disappoint. But this is the round of 16. You blink, you're going home. This Netherlands team, Ikenna, again, I'll beg you to give them some respect. They finished Group A. They finished Group A with 7 points. Started their first game against Senegal, winning 2-0. Now, meeting Ecuador in their second match was a very tricky one because Ecuador had already beaten Qatar 2-0. Now, both teams are looking towards leading the group. So it was a very tight encounter. It ended 1-1. Then the Netherlands went on to beat Qatar. Call Qatar the whooping boys of the team. But with that final game that they wanted to play for pride and glory, to get into the annals of history as the first Middle East team to host the World Cup and probably win again, it was a difficult match. And this Netherlands team held their ground, did the unthinkable, went on to win. Cody Gakpo creating a record of scoring 3 goals in three consecutive World Cup matches. They are getting better, particularly at the back. Virgil van Dijk is getting into his groove. In defensive midfield, you could tell De Ligt is also doing his thing. Attack is already coming into play. And as Louis van Gaal said, they just want to keep getting better match after match. But what I'm just trying to correct is, don't write them off. Don't say they're not the sort of team that will do the unthinkable. They have already done it by coming out of that Group A as leaders. Now they are meeting the United States of America. You have 3 games that your opponents have played in to watch, to analyze, to see their tactics, their strategies, how they're going to run at you, And I think that's what they will do. Let's take a look at this United States team, for instance. They started off their campaign playing 1-1 with Wales, don't forget. And then they went on to play goalless with England and went on to win their last match against Iran to keep hopes alive, to make it to the round of 16. So with football, anything can happen. I'm not writing off anyone, but I'm saying the Netherlands team is a very decent team.
We'll see how decent they will be on Saturday. All right, we'll leave that group and quickly go to another team, another round of 16. That same game, of course, still on Saturday, for Saturday's game where Argentina and Australia will be facing against each other. Now, the Australian coach has said it's war. Yes, it's going for war. They've not made it to this round. I can't remember, the last one was 2006, yes, 06, that was the last time. And now they are in this round, the second time in their history, and they are up against an Argentine squad that really want to win the FIFA World Cup. Lionel Scaloni has complained that, they didn't have time, limited time for recovery because their game went into 10 p.m. Went into 10 p.m. He said they didn't sleep till like 4 a.m. And of course, Angel Di Maria is having injuries. So they didn't have time to recover. They had to go into training, and they're playing on Saturday. Will that play a major factor for them? Because he's really not happy that they didn't have that time to recover. Yeah,
it will. Because Angel Di Maria is no spring chicken. So they are all advanced in age. So they need that time to recover. So, and Australia, what will be going in their mind is 2006. They took the eventual winners, Italy, to extra time. It was just a debatable penalty that got them, that Italy got over them. So they can, if they apply the same strategy, they know Argentina is going to come at them. They just sit back, soak up the pressure, and hit them whenever they can. So it's going to be like what we're going to see on the field is the 11 player, but the actual planning will be from the bench. It's how the coach approaches the game. It's how, because he knows that Argentina is going. Come on, you're playing against Lionel Messi and the rest of the world stars. It's how you are going to ability to defend and your ability to hit them on the counter. But then again, they can draw up inspiration from what Saudi Arabia did. That's enough for any team facing Argentina at this moment.
Austin, if you look at the Australian team, okay. Taking a look at, before Austin joined us, taking a look at the Australian team, what they've been able to do against Tunisia, Denmark, of course, they've been able to do that and getting into this run. And of course, the coach already said, yes, it's going to be war, when facing the Argentine. Yes, according to him, they want to stay here. See how far they will go. But Argentine squad, of course, being for a long time, they haven't won the World Cup after Diego Maradona time and everything. Lionel Messi, as you mentioned, last time, these guys are getting older and older. So obviously, they will be the team that will be under pressure. But the coach of Netherlands, talking about Graham Arnold, has promised war on Saturday. Let's listen to him.
To Argentina or anything at all, but it's 11 v 11, and it's 10 blue shirts against 10 yellow shirts, and it's a battle, it's a war, and we've got to fight that and make sure that and the boys are in great physical shape, great mental shape. They've got great energy, and we go out there with and give it all guns blazing. I just think that Argentina bringing the best out of Australia, and our performances every time against Argentina has been very strong and very good, and as I said, we go into the game with a lot of belief and a lot of energy and focus on ourselves and our job, and as I said, it's for me it's a big 1%er to be playing against them, because they'll bring the best out of us.
Listen, we know it's going to be a difficult task. Obviously we respect the player massively, but I don't think it's just an individual thing. I think it's got to be a team collective. We've got to be, on our game 100%. We've got to be switched on at all times and be alert to every situation, because, it's going to be a team effort and a team collective. And I don't think it can come down to just one individual trying to stop them.
Yeah, when you have a team ready for war, Harry Scooter, he's been outstanding in the last games. So their last 2 games reflecting on their performance. So for me, confidence, okay, they can shut down Messi. It's hard to actually shut him down. That's a very tall order. We understand that the coach has been playing very deep. So before he could get into the penalty area, so the penalty would have cost, or maybe the free kick or anything, is now more difficult for him. But I don't know why the coach is doing that. Well, Scaloni, he's being paid. He understands well.
They went toe-to-toe with France. Opened up everywhere, and they saw what happened. It was like France was scoring at will, whenever they wanted. So I think they have changed their strategy. Sit back, soak up the pressure, and hit your opponents on the counter. That's simple.
But do they have the player to do that? Outside Harry Scooter and some other, we've not really seen Risotto. We've not really seen outstanding players you can really pick, because when you have a team playing as a unit, so it's hard to really pick out a star player and say, okay, this is that man that you feel, okay, when he's on the counter, you can actually rely on him to score the goal.
That is very good for a team sport. That is very, very good. Because when you have an individual, the focus will be on the individual, and he's trying to impress, playing to the garage. But when you have a team, it's a team sport. So everybody's playing together. They want to at least get something for the country. So it's better for them to have a full team playing again than having one individual. It's just like Messi. Every time, whenever they have the ball, they have the obligation to give the ball to Messi. Whether he's in a good position or in a bad position, they just give him the ball. But if everybody's on an equal basis, then they now play as a team should play. They might actually shock Argentina on Saturday. It might happen, it might not happen, but it's football. This is a World Cup. I
won't be surprised, really.
Exactly. So they're in round of 16. What do they have to lose?
Nothing to lose, right? Leave it all on the pitch. Austin, you just mentioned another shock. You've talked about football. I've shown us, hey, you don't have to predict or just enjoy the game. After Saudi Arabia, what Saudi Arabia did to Argentina. So is it possible for us to have a shocker on Saturday? The games we've talked about, yes, you have favorites going into it. Netherlands, USA, obviously on paper you give it to the Netherlands. Argentina, Australia, obviously you give it to the Argentine. But he just said that, Nikina just mentioned that Australia might just, can Argentina actually survive another shock at this World Cup? They already have one in the very first game.
So with your analysis, it goes beyond survival for Argentina. They need to avoid another shocker. And I think that's what they have at the back of their minds. And look, yes, I love upsets. I always tell us that each time we act like we know football, it comes around and then it stuns us. But then again, I'm open for the craziness at this Qatar World Cup, because I'm saying, what haven't we seen from the group stage? So give us more craziness in the round of 16 and I'll take it. But this is the round of 16. This is the business stage, the knockout phase of the competition. You lose a game, you are packing. In fact, before you get on the field, you start packing. And then when you come back, you didn't lose, you unpack because you still stay. So Argentina at this stage, I think they're beginning to pick up their momentum. They're beginning to understand. Maybe that loss against Saudi Arabia was a blessing in disguise. Let them know that, look, we're not even as solid as we thought we were, So if you see how they progressed match after match playing as a team, and hey, be careful before you start saying that all balls to this guy on your screen. No, he's the superstar, no doubt. But other team members are beginning to step up. Just like that last game, he lost the penalty, and then other team members stepped up. They still play as a team. They choke you up by the wings and in the midfield. And if you blink, they are scoring. So that's Argentina for you. Australia, by the way, can relish their experience so far at the World Cup. In fact, even coming out with 6 points from their group is something that we should talk about, But I like Ikena's analysis where everyone is saying, oh, there are no top men to talk about and all of that. As a team, they are getting better. I keep saying it. Anyone that wants to beat Argentina, go and watch that first game against Saudi Arabia. Tick all the boxes. Everything that Saudi Arabia did in that match, tick it. Run with them. Do the man-to-man marking. Pick up loose balls. Run into positioning. Show nobody respect. Knock Messi when the camera is not on you. That's what Saudi Arabia did, and they came out, giving us arguably the biggest upset we've seen at the FIFA World Cup. So I don't know. Coach Graham should come. Pay me some money. Let me give him more analysis from that Saudi Arabia-Argentina match. Tell him how he can go on to beat Argentina. But it's going to be an interesting game. The odds definitely favors Argentina, but football definitely will give us the winner, Cecilia.
All right, we'll wait and see Saturday. So let's move over to games for Sunday. Of course, it's going to be a big day because Poland and defending champions France, they're still in, despite the fact that they don't have most of their players right there at the World Cup. Yes, they've had a fantastic tournament, except the last game that they played, where you didn't expect them to actually lose to Tunisia, but somehow they lost. And of course, but then they're in the round of 16, having qualified before that particular game. They will be up against Poland, and of course, that game, that's for Sunday's fixture. Of course, you also have the game between England and Senegal. So we'll start off with France and Poland. Yeah, France was coming into the World Cup. Star players being injured, Karim Benzema, of course, Paul Pogba, there's so many, Nkunku and all of that. So these players out of it. But then against Poland just managed, sneak in. One of those teams that were really lucky to get into the round of 16. We've not really seen the Polish team. Yes, they have just, one star player, Lewandowski. Yeah. But then you also have other players that you feel can also come to the party. Against Argentines, they were very poor. If we see that same Poland against France, can they really, have a light?
Poland's qualification to tournaments make me question the European qualifiers as a whole.
Okay.
Because they keep on coming and they have never impressed anyone. Even the last World Cup, they were very impressive. This one, they are just there, just playing.
They're complete to the numbers.
Yeah, they're just there. But anything can happen in football, as we always say. But France is blessed with superstars and the super team. Forget about their loss to Tunisia. One of those things that happen in football. But France, they are loaded, and they are, apart from the US, they are another team that have actually impressed me in this tournament. The front three of Giroud, Giroud, Mbappe, and Dembele, they have been awesome. And pulling Griezmann, pulling me big backwards to play as a 10 or as a 8 is an awesome move from Deschamps. So France, but is the round of 16, like I also said, things can go into penalty shootout. Anything can happen. There might be a red card, there might be a VAR review, something might happen. But then again, Poland is not a team with Lewandowski. Is not a team that you have to give that chance or sleep over. Yeah. He's a proven striker. He's a world-class striker. There's no doubt about it. Forget that he scored his first World Cup goal in just this tournament. But then again, if you give him a chance, he'll
punish you. Okay.
Exactly.
Austin, on France, I mean, when you look at this, the French national team, you look at Kylian Mbappe, I mean, that boy, this is his World Cup, so to speak, because he's been fantastic since the tournament has started. You know, when you have a team that you can have a star player, yes, Mbappe is there, but he mentioned Dembele, of course, you have Antoine Griezmann also there. You know, when you have this front three, these players are trying as much as possible to, you know, push their team forward. Yes, the injuries, it's as if the French team are into this tournament without missing anyone based on the way they've been playing. Do you see a shocker against Poland, or rather, if the Poland that we see against the Argentines, if they come up like that, will it just be a walkover for them? Who is going to be the player that will be outstanding? Maybe just come up to shock the French team, if it's possible, since we're looking for upsets.
You know, you guys can quote me all day, every day that I love upsets and all of that, but I don't care what football will do to me with France versus Poland, but I'll just come out straight and say the defending champions will take the day. Yeah. Why would they take the day? Look, this French team is built around team efficiency. They're so efficient on the ball that anyone with the ball knows when the next person needs it. They know when to run into space. They play the pressing football so well. They play the counter-attacking so well. And by the time you're thinking it's just all about Mbappe, you're wrong. And when you take a look at, it cannot just be Mbappe. Mbappe is not getting the ball and is running at you and is scoring. Positioning, they are top-notch. I think that's what Coach Deschamps has been able to do with this team. He's been able to put in responsibility on each and every one of them. That's why I give so much respect to Tunisia. If only Tunisia had won their first game against Denmark, or they lose against Australia and put up the kind of performance they did. But now you see all of these are in the past, because in football, if you don't win, you don't win. Some might come out now and say, yes, the French team did get maximum points and now you can run them down at your peril, because everybody in this team understands one thing, that they are the team to beat. And if you see the way they approached their first two matches, you can tell that they know what they want as a team. So I'm not going to go start calling players that you have here and there and what they're doing, but just take a look at any time Dembele has the ball, somebody is running to the space, another one is opening up in the middle. I think they have this telepathy amongst themselves. If Austin is with the ball, Ikenna, you must take the ball from Austin. When Ikenna is with the ball, Cecilia, you must run into space and get that ball from Ikenna. So whenever somebody is not running into space, then they hold you responsible for that attack that didn't work. So it's going to be very difficult for the Polish side. I respect them. I like the fact that they were able to, make it at the end of the day, because they are quite decent. But if you take a look at that group, you also feel for Saudi Arabia. That what Saudi Arabia did against Argentina, you'd expect Saudi Arabia to go. Even Mexico, to an extent, the little things that they did, you'd expect them to go through. So that's why I'm not coming all out to say I'm expecting anything special from the Polish side. They're a decent team. They also hold their own. But against France, I don't care. Football, do whatever I want to do to me. It's France that will take the day.
Okay. All right, let's talk about another game, of course, the big one for that Sunday. Why is it the big one? Because it's England and Senegal. These two teams, they know each other so well, because the countries, you have English players, Championship, and of course the Premier League. That's where they play, all of them in England. Senegal, you have most of them in England, some in France, of course. Sadio Mane, yes, he's not here, but then he has moved to Bayern. You have most of them. You have France, England, and of course Germany. That's where most of their players are playing. But because these players, together, they know each other so well. Now for Senegal, their current coach, talking about Aliou Cissé, he was a player in 2002 when they made it to the quarterfinals. Now, the possibility of them repeating that feat, is it there at all? They're facing against England, who, of course, obviously, Gareth Southgate is spoiled for choice in terms of players to choose from. But Cisse doesn't have that luxury. Gueye, who was playing 10 when Mane was out, he's also injured. So you're looking at that squad, you're like, okay, yes, you have Koulibaly, yes, you have Ismail Assar, but then it's not as
potent enough.
Yes, they don't have the depth that the English has.
One of the things that I miss about Mane's injury is playing together with Ismail Assar. They didn't quite because
at the Nations Cup,
because South was injured.
He came in much later. Yes,
he would have. They could have been devastating to many teams, and this game was one of the games they could have excelled. But it's one of those what ifs. This game is very difficult for Senegal. I'm all out for Africa. I'll be behind them. I'll be rooting, but it's a very difficult game. England has gotten to that stage of trying to be champions. They have always been
trying to be.
Yeah, of course. They have not won the tournament since 1960s. They have been all over the place. But since Southgate came in, they have started seeing themselves as potential champions. You know, playing the in the semi-finals of the last World Cup, playing in the Euros finals, and now they are aiming to go all the way. Playing that game against US actually brought them back to earth, because they thought they were, they are flying already. But that game actually showed them that they have a lot of things they are missing. So this game against Senegal is going to be difficult, but it's not a game that England is going to win outrightly. Senegal might force some things. Okay, they're a good side on their own. They have their own predict. They have their stars. And I know one thing about what Alex Ferguson always said about teams. You have your spine. Once you have your spine, your team is set. And Senegal has that. They have a good goalkeeper in Mendy. They have Koulibaly. They have Ismail, a guy who might not even play. And they have Sarr up front. So their spine is together. They are okay. But then again, it's what happens at the other part of the field and what England have going forward. What I would advise them to do is that they should focus on Maguire.
Oh, okay. What Austin, I mean, the Maguire issue. Okay. Gueye, of course, is suspended for this game because he picked up a yellow against Ecuador, so he will not be playing. Now, he might be replaced by Pepe Matar Sarr. That's a player who plays for Tottenham. But it may just be a difficult one for Aliou Cisse, because Southgate, on the other hand, is spoiled for choices, because John Stones said earlier in the day, like, look, Phil Foden is the most talented player he has ever seen because of the way he plays. I mean, he wasn't on the starting lineup when he played against Iran, the 6-2-0, and of course the other game against Qatar. But then the last game, yes, he was there and he scored. He scored 2 goals in that game. Someone like Phil Foden, I mean, you have Southgate, who've got the luxury of not even starting him. Then you have Senegal, who are actually struggling because they don't have complement of the full players. England, of course, it's easy to say on paper they may just be the team to make it to the round of to the next round, that's the quarterfinals, and Senegal may not have the chance to do what the coach Aliou Cisse, what they did in 2002.
I think Senegal should be proud of themselves. You know, they should look at that Group A and see the way they picked themselves back up right after that loss to the Netherlands. And, you know, I said it on the show. I was telling Yemi that for Senegal to advance at this competition, they need to stop talking about the absence of Mane. And right after that game against the Netherlands, it dropped a bit and they picked up their concentration. They decided to say to themselves that, look, Mane is not here. We are the current African champions. Let's give these people a beautiful story to write about us. So coming out of Group A with the way they did is enough respect for them. Now they need to sustain the momentum. It's going to be very difficult, but everybody just needs to come to the party. Edward Mendy must ensure that he's top-notch. You see him right there preparing. Those errors, little errors that we've seen, we don't need to see it again, particularly the one against, I think it was Ecuador. They must be solid at the back and have that communication, because that's what the English team will bring to them. I love how Kalidou Koulibaly has stepped up as the leader of the team, and he's leading from the back, very compact, results-oriented, gets the ball and is looking for either that long play or he's taking it to someone who is ready to pick it up by the flanks. Beautiful. He has been doing all the good job. I like to see what Bamba Dieng will do in this one. A lot lies on his shoulder. I love him as a forward player. He's also one who is results-oriented and who can make a story for himself now that the superstar Sadio Mane is not around. So with Pape Sarr coming in, the English team will now need to find a way to understand his play, understand what Aliou Cisse can do in terms of strategic positioning and approach of the game. So this might just swing the way of the Senegalese team if they get their teamwork right. But gracious goodness, it's going to be very difficult, because listening to the local media here in England, if you listen to the tactics and the quality and the talent in this English team. Cecilia, you will say, just let them this time around, let it come home, because truly they've got talent everywhere, Kenna.
But Austin, the same team they were analyzing, we are run over by US. Okay, you watch the game.
No, but that's what I'm trying to tell you.
So the thing is that, you know, on paper, we've always had England as one of the... Anytime they are coming, they hype, the noise, the media, the everything.
But they've got the talent, so you can't write them up.
Have they won
Let me tell you what happened in that game between...
We need to wrap this up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up now. It's because it's the World Cup, and football at every level is different. England has not beaten the United States of America at any World Cup. So when you have those kind of analysis going, it can work for you. Sadly, we have to go, so let me drop it here. In London, I'm Austin Okonakwan, and everything you do, remember, keep talking sports. Bye for now.
All right, Kenna, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right, that's the show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Cameroon and Brazil still goalless, and Switzerland and Serbia is still 3-2. Switzerland leading. Have a good night rest. I'm Cecilia Omogbe.